Suffering is not a competition. Have you ever been in a conversation with someone, a friend, an acquaintance, where you're telling them about a challenge that you're experiencing or maybe about a traumatic experience you had in the past? And then instead of showing you empathy or acknowledging what you're saying, they say, oh, well, you think that's bad. Wait till I tell you this. Basically, one-upping your suffering. Or conversely, maybe someone is confiding in you, telling you about a challenge they're experiencing, and then they stop themselves. They qualify what they're saying by, oh, well, I can't complain to you. It's nothing compared to what you're going through, basically downplaying their own suffering. I can think of friends and acquaintances that have endured traumas that I personally feel I could not endure. For instance, the death of a child, living with chronic and debilitating pain, or having my liberty or independence taken away from me. The thing is, we can't always escape these kinds of suffering, these traumas, right? But how we deal with trauma is different. We all have our individual ways of dealing with trauma. But ultimately, suffering is not a competition. My reason for making this point is because when you engage in public speaking or you create content about your trauma, like I do, you can get stuck in your own head, thinking that you have to live in that traumatic experience in order to provide value to others. And as you can imagine, that can be emotionally draining, right? So when I plan scripts for speaking engagements now, always at the top of the page, I write or type, be a lighthouse speaker, not a spotlight speaker. I heard this in a YouTube video about self-publishing a book. And they were talking about if you publish a book, it helps you get speaking gigs. And the person was talking about when you do speaking to be a lighthouse speaker, not a spotlight speaker. And I love that. It made a lot of sense to me. So now I remember that every time I'm preparing a talk, that I need to be a lighthouse, not a spotlight. So the idea is when you're speaking to diverse audiences, you want to create content that serves as a guide or gives direction and maybe even some hope. So while at times you'll need to spotlight your experience to give context and of course authority, because people maybe will ask, well, why should I listen to you? But ultimately trying to be a lighthouse can help you be more helpful to others and also reinforce your own personal strategies. You'll reflect on what has helped you and reinforce that. So while I've been planning video topics for this channel, I did an exercise using the problem, cause, solution method. When I taught communications to college students, they always had to do presentations as part of their coursework. And one of the methods we taught for presenting material was problem, cause, solution, right? Great for marketing too. So on a sheet of paper, I drew 3 columns, problem, cause, and solutions. Problems, causes, solutions. And I listed all of the problems I was either currently experiencing or have experienced. I'll name some of those problems and let me know if you can relate to any of these problems. So social pain, rejection, failure, disappointment, frustration, confusion, shame, resistance, powerlessness, fear, isolation, and sadness, or even sometimes depression. Can you relate to any of these problems? I then filled out the causes and solutions columns. So what became apparent to me was that the problems column and the solutions column were generalizable. They weren't just for me, they're generalizable to other people, right? So no one needs to have experienced the exact same cause of a problem. No one else needs to have experienced my individual trauma to benefit from hearing about solutions that I used to help solve my problems, or that I'm still in the process of trying to use to solve my problems. So this is how I can attempt to be a lighthouse. At times I will need to spotlight my experiences, particularly because at the time of recording this video, we're still in the sentencing phase of the criminal justice process. So, of course, there's a lot of learning that's taking place, and those things that I'm learning will be valuable to share with others, and possibly help other victims and survivors who maybe are going through the same process or who are about to enter the process, the criminal justice process. Because as you can imagine, this is a very isolating experience. And it's nice to hear from others who have been through it and can offer some I don't know if fairy dust is the right word, but like fairy dust of hope. So when I give presentations now, I often quote poetry, or I'll share excerpts from memoirs or other books, and I'll do facilitate a little mini bibliotherapy session, because that's a service that I offer, bibliotherapy. So recently I shared a quote at the Connect Women conference, which it was in March, and it held in my local community of Whitby. One of the quotes that I shared that day, I'll share with you today. It's from the book Can You Hear Me Now by Celina Caesar-Chavannes. And it's from her memoir. So in this quote, she says, "The ability to speak up about issues that brought pain to people was not just my responsibility. It had become my motivation and my calling. I'd found the perfect intersection of my past pain and present purpose." So the context for this author's, for Celina Caesar-Chavannes' quote here, is based on her life in Canadian politics. So she chose to become a lighthouse for others. But what she says in this quote, the solution she found to speak up about issues that brought pain to people, is transferable to other contexts, right? Like navigating the criminal justice system as a victim. But speaking up sometimes comes with consequences. I'll share another quote from a book by Nikita Gill, who writes poetry, and this is from her book Wild Embers. I often use this book in my bibliotherapy sessions because she talks about trauma and what it's like to be a survivor. So a lot of really good quality poetry that's relatable, especially to women in the shelter system, where I do quite a bit of bibliotherapy. Okay, so this poem is called Silence, and see if you can read my mind as I read this. "The tragedy is people see you as a victim, and they keep seeing you as a victim because you talk about the thing that hurt you, because you talk about your trauma, because you discuss the thing that tore you apart. They do not understand that talking about it, being brave enough to face it, understanding it, and allowing others to see all of your vulnerability is courage at its rawest. You are a survivor because you are not silent. Do not allow others to define your survival because they lack the patience, the understanding, the courage to hear it." So this ties back to the competition of suffering. When we treat suffering like a hierarchy, sometimes we can silence people twice, right? So on the one hand, it might be, oh, I don't want to hear what you have to say. It's too heavy. It's too much. I have enough things to deal with. I don't need to hear your problems too. And then on the flip side, it might be that, oh, it's not worth it. Your problems are petty. Whatever the attention that person needs might be ignored. So I think one part of that poem, I think it's important to draw attention to be careful about, is the line that says, "You're a survivor because you are not silent." I don't take that to mean that everyone needs to speak publicly about their trauma in order to be considered a survivor, obviously, right? Survival means different things to different people, and speaking about it might be one person's way of coping, and being private about it might be another person's way of dealing with it. And there's also other ways like therapy, journaling, art, community, boundaries, humor. I use humor a lot. Some people might need medication, and other people just making it through another day is survival. So not everyone's the same, and not everyone should feel like they have to share publicly, but those who reach that point where they do want to share potentially could be a lighthouse for others, giving them coping strategies and solutions to their problems, right? So We don't need identical wounds to learn from each other. We just need compassion instead of comparison. Suffering is not a competition, right? And we also need the courage to let people survive in their own way. So thank you for being a part of this video lighthouse journey. I look forward to creating more videos with solutions to those common problems that all of us face, even though the causes of those problems might be different. A lot of us have those same problems that I identified earlier. For me, a lot of the solutions fall under the umbrella of expressive therapies. So the bibliotherapy, which is basically the healing power of reading, but in the context of the sessions that I offer, it's really the healing power of connection and conversation. So if you're interested in that, reach out, and I will be posting more about that in future videos. I also am working on a memoir, so writing is a form of expressive therapy. Creating videos is a form of expressive therapy. And comedy, I've taken quite a few comedy classes and even done some stand-up. So comedy, expressing yourself that way is a form of expressive therapy. And then, of course, music. My husband is a professional musician, so he uses music as his therapy. But I will share as much as I can, and I will even share some insights into navigating the systems that are sometimes really tough, especially for victims of crime and even patients in the healthcare system that are also victims of crime. So stay tuned for more, and please offer suggestions in the comments for topics you'd like me to explore and research for you. Thanks for being here. See you next time.